Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. What you're looking at here is a Marlin Model 81 DL 22 tube fed 22 long rifle, short, long, shoots them all. And I'll tell you what, this thing here is a shooter. This thing drives tacks. I've had other Marlin bolt actions, and even the Golden 39A, I couldn't get good accuracy out of that. This thing here, I can't even remember where I bought it. But this thing here, I was shooting rats between the eyes at my parents' house in Long Beach with CB caps. Yeah. Now out here in Idaho, where I can shoot a little longer range, use long rifle, regular long rifle, I want to see if I can get a little better accuracy out of it by doing a trigger job. So we'll get this thing apart and see what we can do. Right now we're at 4.5 pounds. I'd like to get it down to 3.5, would be nice. Somewhere between 3 and 3.5. So let's see what's involved. So what we're looking at here is pretty basic. So what we've got is our sear engagement right here. And there's not much there. So we're just going to take a little bit off and then polish. And then we have this spring here. So the spring is acting on the sear that's going to let the bolt go. We're going to take a look at also polishing up the sear up here that engages the cocking piece. And we'll take a look at that. I probably might not cut the spring. I might just find another spring that's a little lighter. Try that first. So we've got that to work on. We've got a sear up here to work on that's going to release our cocking piece. It's actually a lever that's in here. I'll show you all that. So we'll get it taken apart. So one of the first things I see here where there's some roughness, machining, you can see here, if I can point this out here, got some wear here, and this is where the sear is riding and holding back the cocking piece. Okay, and then riding along this ring here on the striker. So right in here, there is some roughness. There's some machine marks in there. And let's see if we can, you can kind of see some machine marks in there. So we're gonna smooth those down, smooth this out a little bit. That's one thing we're gonna do. Then we gotta look at our trigger and the spring. So we'll go ahead and pop these pins out here, get the sear and the trigger out and the spring, and we'll take a look and see what we got to work with there. So the pins here that are holding the trigger and the sear, this post is rather thin, so you want to support as much as you can. So I get support here for our receiver, and I'm also supporting the trigger. So let's see if we can get that pin out. That came out easy. So now we can take our trigger out. Okay, there's our trigger return spring. That also may be replaced. And now we're going to get our sear and our sear spring out. Okay. Got those two pieces out. And doesn't look like there's anything in here that we're going to be required to work on. Everything looks good. You can see how thin this is. These are thin. You want to support those when you're driving pins out because you don't know how hard they're going to be to get out. So now we'll look at our trigger pieces. We also need to get our bolt taken apart here so we can get to that rough spot on the striker. Okay, this should come apart. There we are. Okay. And we probably don't even have to do any more disassembly on this. So we can get to what we need right here. There we go. It's right there. That's where we want to be doing a little bit of polishing. Okay. So I went ahead for the sake of time and being lazy. I don't want to take this apart. This should chuck up in the drill press pretty easily here. So we can get a polish on this. I'm going to take a little bit of 400 wet dry paper and we'll back it with a hard piece of rubber that I'll find. We're going to spin that in the drill press and see if we can work those ridges down. 400 should be enough just to work those down a little bit and take those ridges away. So that's next. For a lot of these projects, when you're doing triggers and sanding and stoning and honing, when you're dealing with wet dry paper, if you guys recognize that, that's an old pink pearl eraser. They work great for backing a piece of sandpaper. That's all you need. You got a good backing here. We'll go ahead and get that polished. Okay, I'm going to try and do this with one hand. Hold the camera. Okay, it's pretty much gone. I'm going to try and do it just a little bit more. So now we got the sear and the very top here. See if you can get this. It's got a little bit of roughness on it. So we're going to take one of our diamond hones. I'm going to just use the fine and just grace the top of it here because this has already been worn fairly smooth. Still has some feelable little machine marks on it. But we'll go ahead and just take a few swipes just to smooth it out just a little extra. And we're not really taking material. We're just smoothing out. Okay. All right. I can still see just a little bit of roughness on there. If we're taking anything off, it's a hair of a hair. Just smoothing out any machine marks that were on there. That's all we're doing. And there we got it pretty good there. Okay. So I also see we have a little rubbing here as well inside the uprights that are holding the sear in. This side, very clean. I don't see anything rubbing over here. So because the uprights are a little flimsy, I don't want to go crazy here. Just maybe take where we see it rubbing here, because we do have some heavy machine marks. We'll just go ahead and take a little bit off of here. Take it down, just what you can see of the machine marks there. We're just going to take a little. I'm going to use the medium stone on this. Or I should call it the medium hone. These diamond hones are great. And I've had on another video where you can pick these up. Amazon sells them. I think they're like about 25 bucks for a set of 3 or 4. And they're just like this. They're the Easy Lap. Highly recommend it. You're doing anything where you're smoothing out parts for any kind of mechanism, really. These work fantastic. I've had these for, gosh, since the, I'm going to say the mid 1980s. And I think when I got them, they were used. Someone gave them to me, they were used. Yeah, we'll just do a little smooth up here. Just taking anything that might be a high spot that was rubbing before. I'm going to use the fine now. So if this is rubbing on the side, we're going to take care of that. A little bit of rubbing, which wasn't much. Okay, there we are. Yeah, this isn't a target gun. We're just smoothing out some of the rough spots. See if we can get that trigger pull down from 4.5 pounds. Okay, let's see what we got working on next here. So we've got this engagement here with the trigger, and I think I'll probably just come in here and just clean this up a little bit, this step right here. And we'll clean that up a little bit. Always have something to hold your work in. Never try and do it by hand, by, you know, doing one of these numbers like this, trying to hold it. Stabilize your work as much as you can. You know, a side like we were doing, sometimes you move the part against the abrasive. You can do that. Okay, so now we're gonna just see if we can clean up a little bit of this here using the fine diamond hone. Okay. Have a nice edge here. Okay. There we go. All right. This piece I'm going to leave for now. And now we got the trigger itself. So our engagement, like so. Here we go. There's not a lot there. It's pretty short. So what I think I'm going to do is just run the fine right here. Let's see, which edge did I want? There we go. Yeah, it is going to be just a swipe. Okay, here we go. All right. Nice. Okay. So we're sitting like that. We got just a little bit of a lip there. Really don't want to make that any shorter. Again, not a target gun. We're just trying to see if we can take a little bit of that, reduce the weight of that trigger. So I think at this point we're going to go to the springs. This is a pretty tough spring. That's the trigger return. And then we have the sear spring here. That's pretty tough too. So I'm going to see if I can find some comparable springs in my stock so that we're not cutting the originals, but we can kind of play with a spring of maybe the same length, but we're going to have a little lighter tension. Let me go see what I got. So I found a spring that is comparable in size for our sear. There's our original, and this is the one I'm going to try. It's a little bit lighter. Probably has to be pretty stout with the amount of pressure that's put on this, being that it is holding up against this cone rather than an actual edge. Why they made it like that, I don't know. So we're going to try that. See what it does. Put the original back over here. As far as the trigger goes, I'm going to come in here, and since I don't have a spring to replace this one, I'm just going to take about 1.5 coils off and see how that works out. So I'll do that, be right back. So we took about 1.5 coils, and that's going to go back in there. And we need to get our bolt put back together. Find our little engagement hole here. Okay. go. Okay. Bolts back together. Got to get our caulking piece put back in place. Okay, I had to use the vise on that. I couldn't hold the camera. We brought that back up to the caulking notch. I'm gonna put a little break free on here. I love break free. It has proven itself over the years to be one of the best protectants and lubricants that you can use. It's ideal. There's other stuff out there, I'm sure, but for me, it's break free. Okay. Now we got to get this put back together. Let me set this up. Okay, we'll get this put back together. Find our little spring placement hole here. There we go. Pin goes back in. Okay. That just slipped right in there. I expect the trigger's probably going to do the same. There we go. All right. Okay. A little bit of break free on there. Okay, a little more on the bolt. Alrighty, the bolt back in. And we'll set it up in the vise and see what happens. Okay. Oh, that feels better. That does feel better. Let's check it. Maybe I can check it here without having to move the camera. Okay. It's always tricky when you don't have somebody to film. See what we can do here. We were braking right at 72 ounces. Hey, I believe we came right down a good 3/4 pounds maybe. Yep. This is not easy, folks. Okay, well, you saw it was at 56. I'm gonna put it in the vise, double check, get back to you. Okay, So putting it on the scale, we are breaking between 3 and 3¼ pounds. So that is going to be a nice trigger, very crisp let off. I mean, I can't really do it here, but this is much nicer, much nicer. So it's going to make my accurate little Marlin bolt action here that's been a tack driver even more of a tack driver. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it wasn't too long and you got to learn a little bit. And as we always say, life is good here in Idaho. Live free or die, folks.